Oh, it's hard to believe that there's real people.
Yep.
Like that that are on that show.
Yeah.
They're real humans.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
What is up, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Nerdy Misfit Podcast.
Hello. How's it going, Connor? Happy September.
September is here. August has flown by. It has came and gone.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
It's the whole summer's gone by.
Technically, summer's not done till
Yeah.
something like this September 22nd or something like
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're going to be bringing the end of summer blues for this episode.
I think to me, because I think it's just so obviously we haven't been in school for a few years, but I think commonly a lot of people are like, well,
I'm going back to school.
September is, Labor Day is
It's
the end
of the
it.
little vacation.
Yeah.
Yeah. So today I thought, why not do a nice little recap, I guess, of what we've been, reading, watching, doing for that June to the end of August.
Last couple months.
Yeah, territory.
Etc.
We haven't done one for a while.
It's been a hot minute, that's for sure.
And also, we have had a couple more focused anime content in the past two episodes, so this should diverge a bit outside of that.
Yeah, but stay tuned for next episodes where it's anime based.
One of us maybe watched a little bit more anime than the other, but
That's expected.
But at least I think we've dabbled in some other stuff as well.
Yeah, there's diversity when it comes to what we've watched.
Yeah, for sure. I actually, in the doc that we prepared, I totally even forgot about the live action shows that I've watched.
Your list is just straight anime.
Yeah, there's been a lot, and I've also been on a pretty good run of watching anime as of late. So, it's like we talked about. Sometimes there's burnout, and I think you can relate. In terms of just doing things, you can never just balance and be like, okay, I'm going to watch some anime, read some manga, read some comic books, watch some regular TV.
No, you got to pick and choose.
Yeah, it's just, I'm going to crank out this one thing until I'm sick of it.
Yeah, I'm by my computer. That means I can sit here for the next couple hours and binge through half a season.
Or play a certain game. And
exactly.
You just play until you're done and you don't do anything else.
Yep.
It's probably not the best way to do it, especially since, we are trying to have this podcast be a little bit more than just anime.
Yes.
We do love talking about it, though, but...
Oh, yeah, it's one of our main topics, things that we chat about the most.
But without further ado, do you want to start? I didn't actually put in order specifically from June, but perhaps
mine's just overarching.
Yeah, do you want to start us off? Let's start us off with reading, since my list will be very short and yours will be
Yeah,
lengthier.
I mean, I can just go through, because obviously I'm reading mangas, graphic novels, and books.
Yes.
Right, so I'll go break down. Over the last couple months, for manga, I've obviously reading weekly One Piece, Kaiju number 8 mostly. I think I'm currently 2 chapters behind. Obviously, I've been reading My Hero Academia weekly, but that's obviously finished. If you didn't know about that, check out our episode from 2 weeks ago.
Yep, we have an episode on it.
I'm now currently reading through Jujutsu Kaisen because at the end of September, it will be done. So,
yeah, that was wasn't expecting it. The
soon.
announcement I was expecting it this year. I was pretty confident with the way the story's been going, but yeah, a lot sooner than expected, and a lot sooner than Matt expected.
Yeah. Well, I was thinking December maybe, maybe November.
I'll
I was I'll read one volume every little bit, and then it's oh hey, it's done in 5 chapters, and I'm I have to binge it faster than I did One Piece to catch up. No, I really don't have to.
I mean, you have time. You've got time, especially if you consider the recording date as well.
Exactly.
So, about a month.
Yeah. Otherwise, of manga, I've been, unfortunately, reading Boruto. The sequel, the Boruto Shippuden, as you may call it, for the manga, started
What's it
off...
called? Twin Storms or something?
Two Blue Vortex or something like that,
The Vortex, yeah.
It started off... Strong is a strong word to say that about Boruto, but it started off interesting. and the last 2 chapters have just making me lose interest. I think it's one of those things that I'm like, I've read this far.
You're going through.
And I'll just keep reading it. It's a monthly one, so it's, 40 pages once a month. It's not the end all be all.
Yeah, I get that.
That's it for manga. For comic books, I've been reading the current run of Green Lanterns.
Okay, yeah, very nice.
Overly interesting. It's like there's this new people that are running the Green Lantern Corps because the Guardians aren't really around, and they've kind of kicked all the human Green Lanterns, being like, hey, you can be part of the Lantern Corps, but you can't go back to Sector 2814. Like, you can't go back to Earth, so you got to make a decision.
Right.
So John Stewart gives up being a Lantern. Hal returns back to Earth, then manages to forge a Green Lantern ring using a Manhunter suit, basically.
Okay.
Because the Manhunters, not to be confused with the Martian Manhunter.
Of course, yeah. Well, why would anyone get
Exactly.
confused by that?
The Manhunters were like this android army that the Guardians of Oa made before the Lanterns.
So they're like the failed...
The first army is basically
first
what it's
Guardians
called. Yeah.
Or their attempt.
They made appearances, I think, in the Superman show, like the animated one, some of the Justice League. And then Green Lanterns were the second army, and then in New 52 they introduced the evil third army, but that's irrelevant to this. Hal's on Earth, creates a Green Lantern, tries to go back to Carol again. Surprise, surprise. And Carol's like, actually, I'm engaged, and I actually don't love you anymore. And then Hal decides to leave, and then we get introduced to the other human Green Lanterns, which at this point is like 8 human Green Lanterns, which even when I was actively reading, it's getting to almost too much, man.
It's not lining up with what the original concept was, right?
Exactly.
I guess that's the big issue.
Yeah, like when we had even the first 5, when you had Hal, Guy, John Stewart, Kyle, and even Simon Baraz during New 52 at the beginning of him getting a Green Lantern ring because Sinestro forged one for Hal, and then obviously Sinestro was crazy. So the Green Lantern ring didn't really quite choose Simon, but kind of did. And even obviously looking like Kyle Rayner became a Green Lantern because Ganthet was the only Guardian left. So he went to Earth, gave the ring to Kyle.
Yeah.
Right? John Stewart was created in case Hal went rogue or something like that. I can't really quite remember. And then it was Guy Gardner was supposed to be the Green Lantern, but Hal was closer to Abinsur's ship or something. Don't quote me on that.
I remember
there was something about that. It's the Neville to Harry situation, almost.
It's like what house did he go to?
Exactly.
Yeah.
But anyways, they've introduced a new Lantern Corps, which I haven't read the most recent issue, so I don't know how that's talked about, but there's a new Lantern Corps in the emotional spectrum, which is kind of weird. I don't want to spoil that in case we have any listeners for it.
Okay.
Outside of spoiler alert, there's new Lantern Corps. Otherwise, with our comic book store, our local comic book store closing, obviously graphic novels have been going on sale. So I've been picking up a lot of New 52 titles, which is where we were reading the most comics back in the day. So trying to...
Nostalgia for us.
Nostalgia, yeah. Which is crazy because that was...
Yeah, you don't need to think about it.
Yeah. But anyways, yeah, so I've been reading some of the Titans of New 52, Legion's Lost, which is like the Legion of Superheroes equivalent. And recently I've been reading The Savage Hawkman, which only had 2 volumes.
Okay.
There's
a lot of the New 52 had a lot of early 1 volumes.
And then just dropped off.
Yeah, they got dropped.
Yeah, I think I have like volume 1 of Mr. Terrific, Shazam,
Yeah, exactly.
Savage Hawkman. Yeah. Anyways.
They always try with other characters and see.
It's a reboot. Like,
and you got to try.
Exactly.
Maybe there'll be some hype for the character because he hasn't had a story in a while. But
I think this is also around the time Legends of Tomorrow was kind of going through with.
Yeah.
Or just before. So obviously with the Arrow show and Flash, like they're like, hey, if people like them in the show, maybe we can toss them in. Because Mr. Terrific was also an Arrow.
That's true.
Hawkman and Hawkgirl were connected through Flash and Legends of Tomorrow, etc. And then for actual books, I'm reading through the Giver Quartet. So there
never heard of it.
You've never heard of the Giver?
No.
I don't know if you're being sarcastic or not. Some people genuinely haven't.
It sounds familiar.
It's like a utopian thing where everything's like all at peace and the main character becomes the receiver of memories. They made a movie about it. It has the dude from Teen Wolf, I'm pretty sure, like Dylan O'Brien is in it.
The receiver of memories? Is this Dune?
It's like Jeff Bridges, Dylan O'Brien, Taylor Swift's in it for a sec.
There's
like
a show, The Giver.
Not the show.
Oh, it's a movie.
It's a movie.
Renton Thwaites.
Basically, it's
Meryl
utopian. Meryl Streep's in it too. Like, it's a good, solid cast. But I think I read the book in either high school or like grade 8 as like the class book that everyone had to read together, kind of thing.
All right.
But the book The Giver comes out, and then 2 years later, the author writes a separate book called Gathering Blue, which has nothing to do with The Giver.
Of course.
And then The Messenger comes out, which is a third book, and it connects Gathering Blue, the second book, but it takes place 3 years later. And then you find out that this book is taking place 8 years after The Giver, because there's a character that's in the book, and he's like, oh yeah, I know exactly who The Giver and like how that's all connected, kind of thing. I don't know. It's just an interesting, like, indirectly related book series. Like, if you never read, like, there's no certain order to read some of the beginning of like the books. Like, you don't have to read like Gathering Blue, Messenger, Giver. Like, you can read it any order you want, which is kind of neat. And then recently, I talked about it a few months ago, I think, when I started buying them, but it's a Disney villain book series by Serena Valentino, and it just kind of gives you more information. Basically, it's a odd retelling of old Disney movies from the villain's perspective, but gives you more info before and after. And there's been these reoccurring characters called the Odd Sisters. And basically, they're these crazy witches, which I'm pretty sure are basically the Fate sisters from Greek mythology, because they are the ones that gave the mirror to the evil queen, and they're the ones that gave the rose to the beast, and the necklace for Ursula. And like, they actually made fun of Maleficent, which then caused her
pushing
to
the
like
snowballs
exactly
down the mountain.
Exactly.
I see.
Like, they gave the brooch
But does
for
that
Lady
ruin
Tremaine.
it for you a bit to have such?
I don't think so, because it just adds, for me, it's just extra lore, because it's not like changing anything about the movies.
But in a way, it does, because it kind of changes the initial motives of some of the villains, if you will. Would they have even come up with a plan if it weren't for stuff like that? I feel like we're in a time where, I know some people complain about this for Star Wars, which I think is a different issue altogether, but some things just don't need extra backstory.
No, I would agree with that.
But I mean, if they're written well, then I guess it's just
I'm enjoying them.
Yeah.
Like, I'm definitely intrigued. Like, and it's 11 books, and I'm on book 9 now. But it's just interesting because it just gives you extra context, because you're like, how would all these characters be interconnected? You know, why was Mother Gothel obsessed with the flower? Like, why was she seeking immortality?
Why indeed?
You know, so this book gives you the full context of like Mother Gothel's 2 sisters, and how the reason why she's called like Mother is because she took after her mother, who was like a crazy powerful witch, and like why she's obsessed with living in like that part of the forest, for example, right?
Right.
So it just kind of gives you extra context to all of that, and even like why Gaston started going crazy during Beauty and the Beast, more than
Sure.
like, it's just cool things like that. Like, in the second book, which is the Beauty and the Beast style one, you find out that Gaston and Prince Adam were actually friends at some point.
I feel like you can base that he was
Definitely acquaintanced.
It felt like he was close to a good amount of some of the people within his mansion, house, whatever you want to call it.
It's just cool that it's explained a little bit more, but to me, it doesn't take away.
Yeah.
It kind of, if anything, for some of the books, it fills in some of the gaps.
Yeah, that's fair.
The only book I didn't really like was the Cruella de Vil book, because it just, when you're thinking of the other books, when you have like inspired by Tangled, Beauty and the Beast, Cinderella, Snow White, you're like, why does Cruella de Vil fit in? Like, there's no princess, you know? So
That's
that
valid.
was kind of like what threw me off a little bit, and it
Still a Disney villain, though.
still a Disney villain. And the book covers are just great.
Yeah, Matt really loves these book covers.
Yeah, like you take the sleeve off, and it's just a crazier version of the character. Anyways, so I'm currently reading the Captain Hook one. That is a rant. That's the end of my rant. Oh, sorry, I'll end it there.
That's your reading rant.
That's my reading rant. I think that's basically it that I'm reading. I mean, I guess I'm reading the Pokemon manga, but that's just kind of like
as you're going.
a bedside book.
Fair enough.
Kind of thing.
Yeah, mine's pretty short. Just keeping up with Jujutsu Kaisen, which will end soon.
Mm-hmm.
One Piece. My Hero, which is obviously done now, but caught up and was reading weekly as it was going. Started to reread Dan to Dan to kind of be ready for the anime as it comes out.
A fall anime, right?
Yep. big fall anime. We'll see how it goes, but I just wanted to kind of, you know,
refresh your palate.
Refresh myself for it.
Yeah.
Chainsaw Man Part 2 I've actually started. Don't know how into it and quickly I'll read it, but have heard it feels like it's starting to work towards the climax of Part 2.
That's about time.
So I feel like, you know,
how far have you read into it? Like just kind of started?
I've just started Part 2.
Okay.
So yeah, the thing is I have a bunch of manga that I both have physically and have the ability to read.
Yeah.
That is on my list of things that either I have read. So I think I might start doing something like I'll read an arc, then switch to something else, read an arc, switch
That's
to something
fair.
else.
That's
just
smart.
to try and spread the love around. Especially with, if you look, My Hero ending and Jujutsu Kaisen ending, I'm going to need a couple
two
new
big
weeklies,
hitters.
2 new weeklies to read. So hopefully Jump comes up with some big series. I know that there's a few that are early days that I haven't really tried. Don't want to get burned. I've been burned before for series that I like that don't end up taking off. So kind of letting them get their steam. And once I feel confident that it's not ending, I'll maybe pick it up, catch up, and then be a weekly reader. We'll see.
That makes sense.
And of course, we'll update the podcast if that ends up happening.
Exactly.
But that's it for reading. Obviously, definitely need to put in some work on the novel end. It's just very difficult for me to just pick up a book and want to read a book. I'm like, if I'm picking up a book...
Are you still reading through Dune? I feel like pre-summer we discussed you wanting to read through Dune.
I've read through the first 2 books completely.
Yep.
And I am on the 3rd book, which is Children of Dune, I believe. But they're big books. Big, wordy books. Wordy books. So, yeah, sometimes it's just easier to just grab a manga. The visuals are nice, you know. So, but on to the watching.
Hey, this is all you. We'll start with this because your list is a lot bigger for mine for this one.
So, beginning of the summer was more chill. Obviously, House of Dragon started up. So, watched House of Dragon. Both you and I have watched The Acolyte.
Yep.
Which is canceled. No season 2.
Rest in peace.
But I was watching Gossip Girl slowly through the year, and then I stopped for a while, and then I picked it back up and cranked out the last 3 seasons, I believe.
Okay.
In the early parts of the summer. And then I was like, what the heck's going to be my, like, just show on in the background where I don't have to use my noggin?
Mm-hmm.
So I went back to Grey's Anatomy. And I basically just skipped through trying to find an episode where I didn't remember something. And was like, okay, this is roughly where I am.
Yeah.
So I ended up watching the most recent, 6 seasons or so.
Okay.
Not season 20, but seasons 19 to 13-ish, somewhere in that area.
Yeah.
So that was nice. Very extremely dramatic, as you might expect.
Mm-hmm.
But I've been actually on a decent anime grind.
I'm looking at this list, and yeah, you've been pumping through.
So as discussed, right now it's Fridays, but some changes. With a good group of friends, we watch 3 to 4 episodes of an anime that we've picked. We've talked about on the podcast before. Right now, we're slowly working our way through Bakuman. We're on season 2. So I've been watching that. Elusive Samurai is a current airing series, along with a couple other shows like My Dear Friend, Nokotan, Alia Sometimes Hides Her Feelings in Russian, Days with My Stepsister, Oshinoko Season 2, Tower of God Season 2. These are all current summer season airing shows that I've been watching. Obviously, watched Odd Taxi and watched 91 Days, which were our animes of the month. If you want to join us for September's anime of the month, which is Horimiya, feel free to join us. And we have a Discord that'll be in our link tree down below. And yeah, we would love to have you guys watch along and let us know what you guys think. So that's, plug there for our anime of the month. Going down the list still, I caught up on Spy Family. So I've watched all that's released for Spy Family. I've been watching Working for a God in a Godless World, mostly for the memes, because it's got some horrific CGI and animation at times, but it's also actually a very funny show at the same time. So me and my one friend have been watching that together. It's enjoying some of the cursed stuff that pops up during it. Obviously, I started Horimiya, which is like mentioned, anime of the month. Ascendance of a Bookworm, which is an isekai. You should check this out, Matt. It's an isekai where the character who gets isekai, she dies from, if I remember correctly, getting crushed by books, by like a bookshelf.
Okay.
And she's a librarian.
Okay.
And she loves books, and she enters a world where she can't get access to books. So she's trying to make books. And yeah, she's like,
this has 3 seasons.
there's more. It's not even done, the story. And it's a fantasy setting. And yeah, it's honestly, it's kind of like sweet. It's got moments that make you hit you in the feels. But it's kind of like a feel-good show where it's tough to put it down. Like, it's tough to not watch it because once you got, and this is a show Gray got me into.
Okay.
And yeah, I won't say it's unreal. It's not high octane action, so you got to be able to. But maybe Matt will watch it and let you guys know if it's good or not. I think it's good.
Sorry, I'm just looking at the light novels here. There's 33 volumes.
Yeah, buddy.
Jeez Louise.
What else? Me and my one friend who I'm watching the Mimi Working for God and Godless World show. His name's Evan. We sometimes like to have once in so often, have a few drinks and enjoy the worst that anime has to offer by sorting my anime list by the lowest rating. And then we proceed to watch what's down there. And we did that this summer. We watched some very questionable shows, some very awful shows, just a good solid mix. So that was enjoyable. Also watched Bartender, Glass of God, which was kind of fun. If you've been a listener to the podcast, you know that every now and then me and Matt like to enjoy a nice cocktail that I'll make. So it is something I like to dabble in. I just find it fun.
Yeah, nice little hobby.
And so it was pretty cool to watch an anime that actually wasn't just accurate in terms of like making cocktails, but also had real spirits that you can purchase, like in our world, like in the background, and the proper bottles, like the way they look. It was cool. Some nice cool details in there. There's also a bunch of stuff that I can't actually remember, but there are some other anime in there. But yeah, it's been a pretty jam-packed. I haven't watched and caught up to One Piece, but I've definitely watched clips or full episodes of stuff I've wanted to see from the manga.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Where if there's been some hype stuff, without super going into spoilers, like Kid versus Shanks, I pulled up the episode where that happens, like stuff like that. So
makes sense.
I don't want to give credit to myself for watching it, but enjoying the stuff I know that's coming up that I want to see. And then I don't have to suffer by the horrible pacing.
Yeah.
What about you, Matt?
All right. I'm gonna start going through the anime. I mean, obviously, like you said, the monthly animes, 91 Days, Odd Taxi, some of my favorite things I've watched this summer.
Both great.
Both phenomenal shows in their own right.
Definitely different. They're definitely not the same.
Very different style shows from one another. Otherwise, anime-wise, I watched all of Kaiju number 8, volume.
Oh, I did watch Kaiju number 8 as well.
Oh, you did? Okay, yeah. So I watched season 1 of that.
Solid. It was decent.
Better than I expected because I expected a lot more CGI, in all honesty.
Yeah, there wasn't as crazy as you might expect for a show with kaijus.
Exactly, especially with there wasn't huge hype behind it, but there was a good solid.
Yeah, I think there was a good amount of people looking forward to it.
I expected there to be more CGI. I'm happy that there wasn't. I think overall it wasn't like jaw-wrenching at all.
Opening and closing were both good.
Yeah, I mean, we've discussed it briefly, I think, a couple weeks ago. But yeah, so obviously I watched all of that. I'm going to start watching through Demon Slayer season 4. Is that the season that just ended? I think so.
Yes, I think so.
I finished up My Hero Academia season 4. I was going to try and watch more of it before we discuss the end of My Hero, but I didn't.
Fair enough.
I'm currently watching through Jujutsu Kaisen season 1. It's kind of interesting where I'm reading through it and then I'm able to kind of watch what
almost
I just
right
read.
After. Yeah.
Obviously, I'm a lot more farther in the manga now than I think where the season 2 ended is kind of where I am.
Yeah, you're in that area.
In that very close area, yeah. So that's mostly it for anime. I haven't really watched too many of the summer shows.
Yeah.
Which, if you guys listened to the episode where we discussed summer season, I didn't really sound too excited for any of the titles overall anyways.
I think a lot of the bigger titles were also sequels to shows you haven't seen, so that'll obviously have an impact as well.
It makes sense. Live action wise, I mean, we watched The Acolyte. We talked about that. Finished up Gilmore Girls with the girlfriend.
Very nice, very nice.
Pretty good overall. I
also watched Too Hot to Handle.
Nice.
With the girlfriend.
Nice. Heck yeah.
No. Oh, it's hard to believe that there's real people.
Yep.
Like that that are on that show.
Yeah.
They're real humans. Yikes.
Yikes indeed. But yeah, watch Gilmore Girls. I mean, I think it's like 7 seasons, and then the creator of the show didn't like how it ended or something, so then they made called Gilmore Girls Day in the Life, which was like 4 hour-long episodes basically to kind of tie plots a little bit.
Tie loose ends and whatnot.
Tie loose ends, but also create things being like, oh, if we ever bring it back, maybe you'll know the answer to this. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, this is the show that Jared Padalecki was on before he went to Supernatural.
Okay.
Yeah.
We also both watched Deadpool.
Oh, yeah. We also watched Deadpool and Wolverine.
Is that might be the only movie I've seen.
I saw Inside Out 2 in theaters.
Oh, how was that?
It was all right.
Decent?
Yeah. I mean, there's certain lines that really hit you when...
I did hear, I heard that it was almost more of an adult movie where people who are adults felt like they really...
Yeah, I mean, this isn't... I guess spoiler alert if you haven't seen Inside Out 2, but one of the new emotions is anxiety.
Yeah.
So obviously that's a thing. I'm going to paraphrase this line, but there's a line that Joy goes and she's like, maybe when you get older, you just don't need joys. Like,
yeah, that hits hard.
And I'm like, whew, that hurts a little bit.
Just don't need joys much.
The story felt slightly recycled, where it was kind of characters got out of the main spot and they had to go through to try and make their way back.
Yeah.
So that in regard was kind of recycled plot. Currently watching The Good Place with the girlfriend. I've seen all the way through.
You've seen all the...
I've seen all of The Good Place. She's only gotten, I think, only a couple episodes into season 2. We just finished season 1. And I forgot how good the end of season 1 is, where you figure out the big twist.
That's the only thing that makes The Good Place good, though.
I agree.
Like, after that, it's kind of like...
hit and miss episodes, really. From what I can remember.
That is the big initial, and obviously we won't spoil it for anyone that hasn't seen it. But yeah, I feel like that is the high point of that show.
Yeah.
And then it never, for me,
it doesn't go back up to that
never.
Insane plot twist for sure. It's also funny watching The Acolyte and then going to The Good Place.
Oh yeah.
And being like, man, this actor's kind of got a bit of range actually.
Hey, I didn't find the acting was overall that poor on The Acolyte. I thought
I agree.
Some people were worse than others, obviously.
Yeah.
But I feel like that's any show. But I think it suffered a lot from the writing, not so much the actors. I thought a lot of them were very decent.
And then the only other thing I really watched, which recently came out, was the final season of Umbrella Academy.
Yeah, you seemed pretty disappointed overall with that.
A lot of people were. I think...
unfortunate considering how strong the first couple seasons
were. First 2 seasons were really well done. Season 3... had some good moments. Season 4, I think, just really fell in a bad way. There's one character that kind of... something happens in the last episode or 2 where they kind of go against the grain of the entire character they've built up with, loyalty of the siblings and stuff. And he does something to break it, and it just seems so out of character.
Sounds like something that happened to me, but for Grey's Anatomy.
Yeah. I think you and I have discussed this.
Yeah,
I think
something... you build up a character maybe as one thing, and they build up over seasons, and then to have the character do something so out of character, or maybe for Grey's in this case, it was a character that has really gone through a transformation from the early seasons to where they were now, and then to just have it kind of all thrown away to go almost revert for
for what reason?
And just not. Wasn't handled as well as it could have been, for sure.
Exactly the same in Umbrella Academy, I think, where it just felt so against the character, and it's a weird thing because
And you've been following him for years, and you're
exactly like great cast. And then in season 3, they introduced a bunch of new characters. Some of them survived, some of them didn't.
All right.
And one of the characters didn't come back for the final season, and they like mentioned the character a couple times, but it feels you being like, well,
Where are they?
But where this seems important if they're all supposed to be kind of connected. But yeah, I mean, for me, liking alternate timelines and time travel and stuff like that, this season definitely fell flat.
That's unfortunate.
But I mean, still some solid actings, some fun scenes.
Yeah, for sure. What else? So what other nerdy things do we have? We have RPGs. Unfortunately, no news on the campaign that I have going on with my friends.
Do you have any update on when you guys are going to hopefully play next?
Hard to say. It's hard to say. You know what they say about Dungeons and Dragons? Hardest thing is
making sure everyone's able to play.
Yeah. And we've just hit that snag where it stopped, and now it's very hard to find that time and get it going again.
Yeah.
We are potentially going to be playing through Baldur's Gate again, which is kind of D&D-esque in a way. So maybe that'll scratch the itch a bit.
That's fair.
But you've still got the
we've been still
going
bi-weekly throughout the entire summer, except for a couple weeks here and there. But yeah,
which is pretty good considering everyone's got a lot going on during this time.
So definitely shout out to the great people I play with. I don't know where the lore of my Power Rangers RPG has been left off in the realm of the podcast. I had 2 players leave the table, which is obviously unfortunate. But we've done our best to carry on the story. I mean, those were definitely 2 hard hitters because we were kind of basing part of the next part of the story.
They had a lot carrying in the story, yeah.
Exactly, right?
Hey,
so
who's to say? Maybe they come back. Who knows?
They could come back. The table's always open for them. But yeah, I mean, we finally got to the big facility that's been foreshadowed for over 15 sessions. They fought some cool monsters. They fought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. They actually killed one.
Very nice. They killed one of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Yeah, because I had like memory chips on them, and one of the players was like, oh, I can try and like smash it in to try and get the memory thing. And it worked. Like, it broke the thing.
Okay.
So one of the other players was like, yo, what if I just rip it out?
Oh, dear.
And this man nat 20'd it, and I was like, that's too good.
Was it at least Michelangelo?
So they killed Donatello. Which I really wish it was Venus, because we had the 5th turtle, because we had 5 Rangers at the time. But
how do you rank who is your favorite turtle? Mine's Leo.
I think with reading The Last Ronin, like Michelangelo is my favorite. But outside, it's probably Leo. Sorry, Donatello. Donatello's my least favorite turtle. I'll say it.
So you were happy.
I'll say it.
You weren't even needing the nat 20. You were like, yeah.
It's more funny because the one character feels bad because he feels responsible for like the death of the Purple Ranger.
Oh,
so there's already just like added lore that he just hates things that are purple now.
Fair.
So it just kind of goes hand in hand. That was just the way the dice happened,
Dice tell the story sometimes.
Exactly. And then one of the Rangers got kidnapped and was replaced, but no one knew for like a good 3/4 of the session.
That's great.
And it was so good because I felt bad because one of my players gave like a really like heart-to-heart speech to like the clone, basically, the shapeshifter. No. I felt so bad. So they're going through the facility. They get to a level. Ranger gets kidnapped, gets replaced by a shapeshifter character.
It's like the post Jean Grey Phoenix.
Yeah.
Like
Madeline Pryor birth
literally
Cable.
Having a child.
Exactly. So they fight the turtles. They start making their way back up. They leave the facility and they're completely like demorphed, except the shapeshifter doesn't change. And they're like,
sus.
What the heck? And then he goes like, oh, took you guys long enough to like figure it out kind of thing. And they're like, what do you mean? What do you mean? And then one of my characters has an ability to like once per session can ask the GM to recall like a recent memory or like things that you would notice. So I tell them exactly when it happened. And the player played it up so well because they were going to look over something and there was a big explosion and he like swore and he's like, all right, guys, I'm fine. And he came back. But when the explosion happened is when he got switched out.
Okay.
So people had no idea. So then they fought him for a bit, and then he manages just to escape. And as they're trying to figure out what to do next because they no longer have their power, this old dude shows up in a pink car. And was like, yo, like, I know everything about this facility. I know you guys are the Power Rangers, et cetera, et cetera. Where the heck is my nephew? And they're like, who the heck are you? He's like, oh, I work with a secret organization and la-da-da-da-da. And he's like, did you guys see any of these red snake symbols in the facility. And the guy was like, oh, you mean like this one? He's like, oh, the Cobra symbol.
Oh.
And then he's like, oh, by the way, the secret organization I work for is G.I. Joe.
Oh,
So
plot
like I
twist.
incorporated G.I. Joe into it. And it was funny because shout out to Christian for this. He's describing, I tell him like the red snake symbol, and he's like doing it. And then he looks at me, realizes that it's the Cobra symbol. And he starts like, he's like, no, this can't be exactly where you're going with this. Is it? Like you could see him getting like pumped or whatever. And then, yeah, Giuseppe Marino, the uncle to one of the characters, reveals he's G.I. Joe, reveals that he was a Power Ranger alongside all their parents, kind of thing a while back. And, yeah, and then they eventually go to a different planet. They get new powers and stuff like that. They come back. They end up saving Chucky, la-da-da-da-da. So next session is session 30, which is insane because, A, I didn't expect to get to session 30.
Yeah, that's valid.
B, I have a rule that all my players know, so this isn't, like, spoiling anything for them, is I kill a ranger off every 10 sessions.
Jeez.
So I had a character die session 10 because one of the rangers took his morpher away from him while he was in a coma, and that was the only thing that was kind of keeping him alive, like his direct connection to the morphing grid.
Interesting.
And then in session 20, we had them kill a bad guy. They morphed, all celebrated before another bad guy showed up, stabbed one of them through the chest, and just teleported away, basically, which then ended up killing that ranger. And then we've had alternate versions of that character pop up throughout. But yeah. And now the big question is, who is going to die next session? That's the most condensed
Be
version I can
concerned
say.
if you're a part of Matt's
Dun,
campaign
dun,
and you're listening.
Dun. Anyways, I can go on and on, but we'll cut it off there for the RPGs. Moving on, TCG.
Yeah, what's going on for your TCGs? Man?
Not much on my. We play One Piece from time to time, and I'm still bad at it.
We did try Lorcana.
Did try Lorcana. I want to play it a couple more times to try and figure out how the locations work.
How you feeling about it? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the new.
It's hard to say off of playing only a few times. We need to play a few more times to really.
If it's a yay or nay kind of thing.
It seems decent though. I wasn't.
It takes some inspiration, obviously, as most card games do.
From other card games,
the
for
big
sure.
three,
Yeah.
for sure. Series 5 just came out for Lorcana. First appearance of Wreck-It Ralph and first appearance of Brother Bear cards.
Brother Bear, nice.
So the temptation to want to try and collect the Brother Bear cards are there. I haven't done it yet because addictions.
Yeah, fair enough.
But yeah, that's basically it for me. I'm not really Pokemon. I haven't really played. A couple of my
Pokemon is
friends.
more collecting for you.
Yeah.
We've played very.
I got my core decks at home that I'll still.
We've
bust
played
out if I need
very
to.
rarely, I would say.
Yeah.
I feel like whenever we're playing, we're mostly just playing One Piece at this point.
For sure.
And I feel like I've enjoyed One Piece the most. I think it's definitely like if I was to say a go-to TCG at this point, it's definitely One Piece. I just think it's pretty well balanced. I enjoy the artwork and I enjoy kind of the.
I think it takes a little bit to figure out exactly the rules.
That's fair.
As
yeah.
most card games, I think Magic, in the grand scheme of it, Magic is easier to learn.
I think One Piece is pretty easy
But-
to learn if you. I think some people think too much about obviously the world, like that it's One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
You ignore that. Like the general rules is relatively easy.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, you've been playing a lot more One Piece.
Playing a lot of One Piece, even just doing research into decks.
You've homemade
Yeah, we definitely
2-3 decks now.
Yeah, we have three usable decks, I would say, outside of the structure decks that we've been playing with for fun. Also been dabbling a lot more into Yu-Gi-Oh. Been giving a try with the current format, which is not my favorite. So with some friends that I went to elementary and high school with, along with my brother, and trying to get Matt to join potentially. We've been playing some older formats of Yu-Gi-Oh! So very popular ones are like GOAT format, which is like very old. Then we played, we did an Edison format tournament together, which is kind of like early to mid synchro era. And yeah, it was really fun. We had a good time, like looking back at older decks, and it's a lot slower of a game. So it's almost like a completely different level of strategy when it comes to Yu-Gi-Oh! At that point, because there's like more of like bluffs is more important. Like, are you bluffing or like having proper card control? Because there isn't just I play this card and an entire insane combo occurs. So we're looking forward to potentially doing some other different formats like Tengu Plant and Hat format tourneys as well with them.
What are those?
So Tengu Plant is very early XYZ,
Okay.
like pretty much like the first initial XYZ content that came out. And then Hat tourneys is, well, if you know anything about Yu-Gi-Oh, I'm a pretty big Mermail fan. And Hat is like when Mermails were kind of near the top of the game, but they're a much slower deck at that time. But those are like, yeah, that level.
Okay.
So hopefully maybe we'll get Matt involved. And if we can get Matt, maybe our friend Eddie as well, try and get some people involved. We might do a recording, maybe post it to the YouTube channel. We'll see.
Heck yeah.
But I feel like we'll wrap it up with just a little bit of
Well, what else? What else is going on?
Less
What's going on in your
nerdy.
life?
Yeah.
You know, how you doing?
So yeah, this summer we did. I personally went out some golfing with friends a good couple times. Definitely enjoy hanging out with the friends. Hard to hang out all the time. Summer, everyone's busy.
Yeah.
But it is nice to go out to the golf course. Obviously, golf is just you're just seeing nature. Also, even if you're bad, which I am. But it's nice to just hang out with some friends outdoors. Also went to the cottage for the first time in a long time up north.
Crazy.
Which was really nice. See some family friends, just hang out outside, drink. My brother brought a bunch of board games that we tried.
Any personal favorites on the top of your head that you
The big
played?
popular one that we were playing was, I forget what the name of it is, but where you're all on an island.
Okay.
And you're trying to get off the island. The goal is you get off the island, but the bigger goal is to try and get everyone off the island.
Okay.
And basically, you start off with so much supplies, and you have to get water and supplies every day, but you have to build rafts, and you have to have enough rafts for everyone to leave the island.
Okay.
But there's items, and one of the items, there's 3 of that you can get from digging in this pile of items, and they're guns, and you can shoot people. And so there's a voting system where when you don't have enough food or water, you vote people off, or potentially the guns come in play, and people start.
I want to know what this game is.
I'll have to off the podcast. I'll get
Yeah.
you hooked up with the
That's
game.
sick.
It was definitely the fan favorite.
Mm-hmm.
There was lots of betrayal, as you might imagine, but we did have one game. I think it was 7 or 8 of us that all 7 or 8 got off,
That's crazy.
which was impressive. Other than that, started posting to my personal Instagram
Which is awesome.
for now.
Yeah.
I've got a little bit of a streak going on. We'll see how long that lasts.
Keep her
but-
going, you know?
What about you, Matt?
I mean,
I guess your plans are actually happening closer to now.
yeah, I mean, by the time this episode airs, I will have already been on one mini getaway.
Yep.
Going camping with the girlfriend and her family for the weekend. And then I'll come back and we'll record another episode. And then I'm gone for
A week.
which is now becoming a yearly thing, apparently.
Hey, I mean,
which is good.
it's nice.
Um,
Creating traditions.
Exactly, which is not big in my family. So this is a new one. Me and my brother and his girlfriend. Last year we drove up to Algonquin, like Provincial Park, and then we park the car and then sail 3.5 hours into the forest in the water, and then we chill. And there's no service, which is great.
Yeah,
because
I was
it's
gonna
a
say
good-
it's kind of nice to unplug.
Yeah, which I think is well needed for me because I feel like I'm quite plugged in.
That's valid. The one thing about the cottage was I was not unplugged. There was still decent internet connection. I actually got sick for a couple days while I was up there. Could have potentially been COVID. Definitely some sort of flu-y
Yeah.
thing where I was literally out of commission for a day.
That's
I
crazy.
just slept all day.
24-hour flu kind of situation.
And then I just kind of took it easy the following day and then kind of was feeling good again.
Yeah.
But yeah, there was still service. Like the one section had Wi-Fi. But I pretty much only used it to when I go to bed. I like listening to like a podcast or
Yeah,
something.
which
So
is
that's kind of
understandable,
what I was
yeah.
using it for. Other than that, it was games or hanging out with people. So
Which is good. I think it's good to
yeah, I think it's
unplug a little
been-
bit at
it's
least,
been a-
you know?
It's been a good summer, I think.
Exactly.
It's been nice that we've kept the podcast going even
Yeah.
through some of our
Hiccups,
vacations and stuff. Not
etc. Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, I got new board game expansions came out.
yeah. I was gonna ask you actually because you often talk about the Villainous
Yeah.
board game. How often do you actually play this? For how often you're getting the expansions?
Well, there's only like 2 expansions a year. I think in the last 2 months I played Villainous 5 times.
Okay, so not bad. So you are playing it decent
I'm still
enough.
playing it. Yeah, I mean, because I have all the expansions, it's a new version of the game every time I play. Like I don't play
new
the same
styles
villain
of
twice.
how the characters are
I
playing.
actually made an Excel sheet to make sure I don't replay the characters.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So, I still haven't fully played through the Marvel or Star Wars one yet. I want to, but mostly I've been playing the Disney villainous one.
Nice.
Which this year they had an expansion for Wreck-It Ralph and Jungle Book. So you could play as Shere Khan from Jungle Book or King Candy from Wreck-It Ralph.
Very nice.
And again, I've talked about this game on the past on the podcast in the past podcasts where every character is played differently. So it's so much fun because even if you play the same character twice, it's all in the cards.
Well, it's
Like,
also similar to a TCG, right?
Exactly.
Like, it's like you're almost nerfing yourself by playing other characters. 'Cause it almost takes time to learn a character
100% it does.
and like how to strategize appropriately. And obviously there is RNG elements.
Yeah.
But at least if you continue to play the same character, you know what goals that character has and how to achieve them.
Yeah.
So
It's cool because obviously it comes with a book to be like, these are the cards you're going to want to try and get. This is the suggestive way of playing your thing, right? But
at the
that
end,
can
it
be
is
still
strategy.
blown out of
It's a strategy
proportion,
game.
right? Because you're also, as much as you're trying to win, like by completing your task, you also want to try and take down other people. So as much as you're trying to pay attention to your board, you also got to pay attention to other people's boards too, right? The new Star Wars expansion for it came out too, which is Captain Phasma, which is whatevs, and then Darth Maul, which is pretty stoked to play that.
Fair.
Otherwise, I've been playing a lot of 5-minute dungeon throughout the summer, which is a fun.
Yeah, 5-minute dungeon seems to be very popular for a lot of people.
It's simple.
Just simple and easy, quick.
Yeah, simple, basic card game, nothing too crazy, not complex rules, anything like that. New Lego sets that came out, like Lego Minis has the D&D ones, which look pretty dope. A bunch of new Star Wars sets just came out.
I ignore all Lego because
it's a deep, slippery hole.
Yeah, don't need to get involved.
Otherwise, yeah. I mean, we went to chapters today.
We went to chapters
Bought
today.
some new manga,
a couple new volumes.
books and stuff.
And look forward to reading.
Heck yeah. But anyways, if you're still here, thanks for listening as our catch up of the summer.
Catch up with the summer and let us know what you guys have been up to this summer.
Yeah.
Are you going back to school? Are you looking forward to that? Was the summer good? Was it bad? Why?
Did you read anything cool? Watch anything cool? Thoughts on things that came out that weren't so good? Vice versa?
Yeah. Feel free to tell us. And if you're not already, please hit that subscribe button on YouTube. And if you're listening to us on Spotify or any of the podcast apps, feel free to drop a follow and give us a rating. It helps a lot.
Heck yeah.
And until next week,
Where we talk about the fall anime.
we'll be talking about the fall anime. There you go. Matt knows what's going on.
Exactly.
So,
I got it in my head.
So if you're an anime fan,
stay
look forward to
tuned for
next
that.
week where we'll talk about fall anime.
Exactly. Until then. Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.